I had a PowerPoint presentation, if anybody was going to bring it up, that just wanted to remind people. But first of all, I just wanted to say that the industry, it doesn't matter which part of the fishery you're in, has been dying from what I call a death of 1,000 cuts. We have pinnipeds that are a problem. We have salmon farms and those problems. We're managed by public opinion instead of by science. We have freshwater and estuary habitat issues. We've got climate change. We've got licensing problems. All of those things, and you know, I'm sure I haven't mentioned all of them, but I call that the death by 1,000 cuts. And there are solutions to all of those things. We can, and they've been proposed by fishermen, right? So we've got the harvest of pinnipeds. You know, let's create a new industry on that. We've got salmon farms, and we've got the federal government and provincial governments finally talking about bringing that onshore so that we don't have disease and lice problems with our wild stocks. Management by public opinion is still a problem. It's probably our biggest problem. We look at the herring situation. We look at what happened with killer whales. We looked at what happened with steelhead. That's all managed by public opinion. It's not managed by science. And science also, and I really liked your comment of MPAs, there's science, but not all scientists are the same. Some scientists have a goal of shutting you down. And so that's what their science produces. And other scientists will have a goal of just pure science, and nobody can understand what they're saying. And what we need to do is have science reviewed by fishermen, and science reviewed by First Nations, and science reviewed by communities, so we can understand that science, and so we can say when that science doesn't make sense, when that science is bullshit. And then we have habitat problems that everybody is rushing to fix. We've got climate change, and we have all of those issues that we can deal with. But the issue here, the overriding issue, is if we solve the pinniped problem, we solve the habitat problems, we solve the weak stock management problems. If you don't have access to a license, the value of the fish goes to somebody else. If you're leasing your quota, it doesn't matter how many pinnipeds you eradicate. If you lease your quota, you're putting money in somebody else's pockets. I grew up, as most of you did, at a time when 100% of the value of the catch went into the fisherman's pocket. 100%. And so it doesn't matter whether we have produced 5 times more fish, if 90% of it is siphoned out of your pockets, you're not going to be any wealthier. So that's you know, licensing is so important because we can solve these other problems, but if we don't solve licensing, it won't happen. So I just want to show you, this is just briefly because it's near and dear to my heart. I just want to show you this. This is what bullshit science does to you, okay, if you're a commercial salmon fisherman. So here is, if you look at this and then hit the little, click on it again, please. So you can see where we are. This is going from 1951 all the way through to 2019. The lowest run, look at where the value is. The value is the green line, and the catch is the red line, and it is the lowest since 1951. Probably lowest in history for value and catch. Next one. Okay, this is taken out of a guy called Ruggerone, who's done this, not my work, and DFO has not produced this. I want to say that again. DFO has not produced this. They don't bother. They don't care. They haven't done this work. This is total returns to British Columbia since between 1952 and 2015. And you can see those are the total returns of only 3 species, because Ruggerone didn't do it for coho and chinook. So if you had added the returns to Canada on coho and chinook, it would be even taller. That's in poundage, because he did it by poundage. Don't ask me why. He did it because he's trying to figure out there's too many fish in the ocean. There's too much biomass. So he added up all the weights of all the fish. in the North Pacific, and that was what he was doing. That's the reason for this. But I borrowed his, publicly available. I took it and I put it here and I charted it, and that is what the return to British Columbia is on poundage, sockeye, chump salmon, and pink salmon. And that's the trend line. Well, the trend line is going up, not going down. And that trend line is probably pulled up because of those bunch of years in the 1980s where things were doing really well. Next one, please. Can you go back? That's my guess. That gray at the very end, because he only goes to 215. I phoned him and he said he hasn't updated it, so I updated it. That's just a guess. So that gray is what I guess. My guess is not bad though. Okay, next one. Okay, here is that first graph that we first showed you. This is returns. I mean, this is catches placed on top of returns. So the gray is the returns. Those are our catches for 30 years. From 1950 to 1980, we were at a stable level, and we just caught, and the fish, obviously, in the mid-80s, shot right up. Look at that. It took an increase after all of that. Basically, stable harvest rate, or stable harvests in poundage. And then start from 1980 on, we put more and more and more fish on the spawning grounds. Because anything above that red line are spawners. We put more and more fish on the spawning grounds. If you look at where we really took a dive, it was in the Mifflin Plan, 1994 to 1999 is that steep dive. And then we were held at those lower levels for 20 years. Now, if you want to know why the fleet was bankrupted, just wait and see. Okay, next slide, please. The green line is the value. I just put the green line on top of it. The green line is the value. So when we didn't have to fight so hard for access, because we were accessing fish, we were catching fish, the value went up because we could afford to go on strike and afford to force the companies to pay more for prices. As soon as our access to fish fell, as soon as our catches fell, and the value fell. Because if you're trying to fight for one more day's fishing, you're not going to go on strike for more fish. And so we're held at those low values. Now, next slide. This is what it is. Look at. You start from the bottom and work up. 1975 to 1994, the average annual catch was 162 million pounds. Okay, then the mid-90s we crashed. 1998-9 to 2018, the catch went down to 46 million pounds. That's more than a 70% decline. And last year it was 3.6 million pounds. Even though, remember, those returns to British Columbia remain high. On value, it's even worse. From 75 to 94, $404 million. That's what the salmon fleet brought in on an annual basis. 1999 to 2018, $52 million. Gone from $400 million to $50 million. And last year, $15.2 million. Next slide. So this is where we are. This is what we've been catching since 1950. So 70 years, and we can have a look at the very end, all of those bars are returned to British Columbia. And the red lines are what our catch is. So if somebody wants to say what that means to me, that means to me that fishermen have been forced down with their catches, and the public thinks that we're catching the very last fish. But we haven't been catching the very last fish. The fact is that our fishery has been decimated, and fishermen aren't resilient because they can't stand what's happened now, which I do believe is due to climate change and all of those other 1,000 cut issues. But we aren't resilient enough to withstand that because for 20 years we've been held at values that have bankrupted the fleet. So anyway, I do want to say that no matter what, licensing, we have to resolve the licensing issues, because even if we resolve this issue, how the value of the catch is shared is going to make you wealthy or is going to make you poor. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. And thank you to all the panelists.